Today we are talking about Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. Such a popular book. I am seeing it everywhere. Does it seem like everyone is reading this right now? Like everyone. Even people who I didn't think had ever read a book are suddenly like posting pictures of this book on social, right? Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. Published in 2022, 556 pages, 21 hours on audiobook. Pro tip, if you're reading this for book club, you're going to want to start as soon as possible because you definitely want to finish this book. Also, I listened on audiobook, which for me was not great for a lot of reasons, but it was great for this reason. The man reading this book was solid. Good Lord, his voice. I mean, he nailed it. Masterful. This book is about a boy named Damon Fields, who everyone calls Demon Copperhead, because pretty much everyone in this book has a nickname. And nobody goes by their given name except some of the grown-ups, who are almost always called Mr. or Mrs. or Aunt, and also for some reason, Emmy. But everyone else is like U-Haul or Fast Forward or Swap Out or Bear, right? And there are a lot of characters in this book, like a lot. And some of them are major characters, and then some of them are barely there, but they're such an important part of the story that if they weren't there, you would be missing something. Pro tip, might be a good idea to keep a running list of the people in this book. Just their name and like a quick note about who they are and what they did. Once you're into the book, you're going to see what I mean about major characters, and you're not going to need like very many notes about them because they are everywhere, right? But there are characters like gas station attendant or the guy that runs the store that Demon works at, right? So those people, they're barely there, but who you might want to remember who they were at a later time in the novel, or like when you want to talk about something that happened and you can't remember the guy's name because it was this little thing that you realize later turned out to be kind of a big thing, for you anyways. And you'll want to be able to say why it was a big thing for you, right? So, pro tip that I wish I had known when I started this book, while you're reading the book, keep a quick list of people. There are so many issues that this book deals with, that Demon deals with. You've got poverty, stereotypes, hillbilly, white trash, trailer trash, right? You've got drug use, right? From weed to meth and everything in between, and drug addiction. And then, so the big ones, the big issues for me anyways, are the foster care system in the first half of the book. And then the oxy issue, the oxy problem in the last half. What I loved about the book was how all of these things were presented through the eyes of a boy who is smack dab in the middle of them. And he's either observing the impact of these things on other people, or he's experiencing them himself. And so, like the first half of the book, you get like an insider's view of what the world feels like for a kid in the system who is trying to trust the system, who is seeing things and trying to understand them with the kind of understanding that a kid would have, which means that you're reading or you're listening to what he's saying. And as he's describing his thoughts and his feelings about stuff, you're either like, oh, sweetie, you just don't understand. Or you're like, damn, he nailed it. And then you're like, he shouldn't have to know that. And then in the last half of the book, you're getting the insider's view of what the world is like for someone who is trying to take care of everyone around them while dealing with their own issues, trying to be a grown-up, but not being a grown-up because they're a teenager, right? And everyone is a teenager trying to be a grown-up, but failing. And by the way, the grown-ups are failing. And it seems like nobody is able to get out of the spiral of doom. And so this is a book that forces you to experience life as Demon Copperhead. You really do get inside his head as he's narrating the story about who he is and who he's becoming and why he's becoming that way, and about all these people around him who have influenced him for better or worse. You see the people who saw Demon, the people who used him, the people who tried to love him and loved him well, the people who tried to love him but like had no idea what they were doing, the people who didn't even try to love him, and people who just kind of kept him alive but left him alone, right? So there's all of these characters that make up the life of this book, and they're all important, which is why it's nice to have a list of who they all are, because it's sometimes those minor characters that I think about when I think about this book, right? Fast Forward's adopted sister before Fast Forward was unadopted, right? And then there's this other girl who just like keeps randomly showing up at the end. There are people that he meets like at gas stations who have like this massive impact, and they're super interesting to think about and talk about. But you got to remember who they all are. So a list, my friend, I recommend a list. So if your question is, should we read this book for book club or not? My answer is, you should. And you should plan for a long discussion, because it's a long book and a lot of shit goes down, and you're going to want to process through it and rage about it and figure it out. And that's just if you stick to the book. I think the tendency with this kind of a book is that you'll want to not talk about Demon and Maggot and Aunt June and the Peggotts and Tommy Waddles, because it's almost easier to talk about the bigger issues and the problems and get sidetracked talking about pharmaceutical companies and like things that are important to talk about for sure. But, and maybe I'm wrong to even suggest this, but there is so much to talk about with just the characters and the things that actually happen to them in this book, and the decisions the characters are making, and why you think they make those decisions, and are there any other decisions that they could have possibly made, and if so, what were they, and why didn't they make them, right? I think that those kinds of conversations really get us like into the story, and get the stories and the meaningfulness of the stories into us. Because we're not talking about like societal issues, we're talking about people. Fictional people, to be sure, but they don't feel fictional, especially in this book. They don't feel fictional at all. They feel real and flawed and magnificent, right? Trying the best they could, or not really trying at all. So to book club or not to book club for sure. You're going to want to talk about these people and the things that happen, and figure out why they happen and if they could possibly have been different. And then you'll take all of that discussing out into your real life with maybe a new way of thinking about poverty, people who live in Appalachia, and how the foster care system works or doesn't, and how maybe addiction isn't always exactly what you thought it was. Maybe sometimes it's different. Maybe you come away from this book and your book club discussion with new eyes or a new perspective, or maybe you run down to Children's Services and sign up to be a foster parent immediately. I don't know. But this is the kind of book that should be book clubbed, because you will want to talk about what you read. So yes, book club this book. So a lot of people are saying that this book might be their book of the year. I don't know. I haven't decided what book is going to take the July spot in my book bracket, but maybe it's this one. I don't know. But hey, if you do this, if you choose a book of the year and you'd like to do it with the book bracket, and you need one that you can just download and start using right now, I'm totally happy to share my book bracket with you. So just go to this link, let me know the best email address for you, and I'll send a book bracket right over to you. Easy peasy. Let me know. So you will find lots of book club questions for this book if you Google it, right? I mean, Oprah did a whole thing on this book. So there's all of that out there. But here are 3 things that I would love to discuss with my book club about this book. Okay, so I would love to explore Fast Forward. When he first came on the scene, I thought he was a good guy, right? When they're all 4 boys living on that farm with Mr. Creepy. Fast forward, Demon, Swap Out, and Tommy, right? And when Fast Forward gave the other boys all of their secret names, like, he seemed to really see them, like the best parts of them, who they were. And he gave them these great secret nicknames, right? Tommy was Bones because of the skeletons he would draw, but also because deep down, Tommy had good bones. He was a good guy. I mean, that's a good secret name, right? And then Demon was Diamond because he's bright and shiny and worth a lot, right? Harder than anything else there is. What he's got, the girls are going to want when he grows up. Like, these are nice things. Nobody else would have ever said these things to Demon about himself, right? And so it was like, wow, I was kind of impressed with Fast Forward. It seemed like he was a good guy. I mean, yes, he is forcing the boys to give him their money. And yes, he is giving them drugs. So maybe not a great guy. But something about him, like, deep down seemed good. Like, there was something in him that was good. So I did not see what happened with Emmy coming. So here's my question. What did you think of Fast Forward? Was he always a manipulative dick, or did he become a villain at some point after he was on the farm with Demon? Like, what did you think of him? I also want to talk about Angus. Like, what was different about her? Why did she not get involved in all of the things that the other kids seem to be getting involved in, right? How did she manage to not fall into the spiral of destruction that everybody else just seemed to be drowning in? What was her deal? What was different about her? So what did you think was going to happen to Demon when he went back to Lee County at the end to talk with Annie and then to maybe attend Coach's tribute event thingy? Were you afraid for him, or were you, like, confident? What was going through your mind? And okay, one more just for fun. So what do you think happens next? Does Demon make it? Like, what does his life look like in 5 years? What happens after the book is over? So that's Demon Copperhead. Tell me, are you reading this book for your book club? What questions or things are you most excited to discuss? Let me know in the comments. And let me know your thoughts on my 3 things. I'm especially curious about number 4, even though maybe it means a bit of spoilery stuff happening in the comments. I don't know. Okay, don't read the comments if you don't want possible spoilers. I hate to say that. But okay, tell me in the comments, what do you think happens next? What is Demon's life like 5 years down the road? Are you optimistic about his future? Are you worried and doubtful about the future? That's all for now on Demon Copperhead. But if you're wondering about Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, Heart Bones by Colleen Hoover, Viola Davis Finding Me, or Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton, well, I've got all of these in my July library. So hit subscribe and hit the notification bell, and you'll be notified when I've got videos for those books available. Meanwhile, maybe you want to check out these. Thanks for watching. See you next time.